You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 18. Linchung fights fiercely in their stronghold. Chaogai seizes Liangshan Marsh. The inspector He Tao left the court with the signed order, and went into a private chamber to discuss matters with a number of his men. They unanimously said, "As you want us to go to the Shurjia village, we must not forget that that place is quite close to Liangshan Marsh. The lake is very extensive, and there are numerous anchorages for boats among the reeds and rushes. Unless we have a large number of soldiers, boats, and horses, who dare go there to try and arrest the thieves?" "What you say is correct," said He Tao. He left and entering the hall again spoke to the prefect. The village of Shurjia is quite close to Liangshan Marsh, and on the lake there are numerous anchorages and narrow tracks in all directions in the reeds and rushes. There have always been thieves in that spot, and recently their numbers have increased. If you do not give me a very large number of soldiers and horses, how dare we attempt to arrest the bandits there? "As things are like that," said the prefect, "I will send an officer with 500 soldiers to go with you to arrest the bandits." The inspector He Tao, after receiving these orders, went back to the private room, and summoning all the soldiers he carefully selected 500 of the best men, and then ordered them to go and equip themselves for the expedition. The next morning the military officer, with his 500 soldiers, and He Tao with his men left for the Shurjia village. After Chaogai and Sunsheng had set fire to the farm buildings, they left with about 10 of the farm laborers for the Shurjia village. About halfway there they met the three brothers Ruan, who were armed, and had come to conduct them to their village. Ruan II had already sent his family, both young and old, to a place of safety on the lake, and now the 7 men discussed whether they should all go to the brigands' stronghold at Liangshan Marsh. "Just now," said Wu Yong, "at the Li family village there is a man named Zhu Gui, dry land crocodile, who keeps an inn there, and offers shelter to brave men. Those who want to join the bandits must first go to him. We had better load all our possessions on a boat, and go there. We can make a present to him, and request him to arrange for us to join the bandits." While they were discussing the matter, several fishermen entered and reported that a large body of soldiers had arrived at the village. Chaogai stood up and said, "As they have come we must stay here." "Never mind," said Ruan II, "I will go and meet them. I will cause more than half of them to be drowned, and the rest killed." "Do not get excited," said Sunsheng. "This is my affair, so you just watch how I deal with them." Chaogai said, "Let Brother Lu Tang and Wu Yong load all our possessions, and also the young and old people on a boat, and then row to the Li family village, and wait for us there. We will stay behind to see what the soldiers will do, and then we will follow." Ruan II loaded 2 large boats accordingly, and Wu Yong went in one, and Lu Tang in the other. About 8 men sculled the boats to the Li family village. Chaogai then told Ruan V and Ruan VII to get some small boats, and fight with the enemy in a certain way. Inspector He Tao and the military officer, upon arriving at the Shurjia village, seized all the boats that were moored there. The soldiers who knew how to handle boats were then placed in the boats, and the others were mounted on horseback on the bank. They then all moved towards the village. Upon reaching Ruan II's home they raised a loud shout, and rushed into the house. But it had already been vacated, and there were only few heavy furnitures left behind. He Tao instructed his men to arrest some of the fishermen who were neighbors. When the neighbors were brought before him they said, "The 2 brothers, Ruan V and Ruan VII, are living at another anchorage, and we cannot get there without boats." He then said to the officer, "This lake has numerous tracks and nooks through the reeds, and where there is open water we do not know how deep the water is. If we divide our forces I am afraid that we may fall into some villainous trap. I think we had better leave our horses here with a few men to guard this village, and send all the other soldiers on the boats." This was agreed to, and He Tao and the officer then embarked with the bulk of their men. They had seized more than 100 boats, some for rowing and others for sculling. They all started off for Ruan II's house on the lake. They had not gone 5 li when they heard a man in the reeds and rushes singing, and all the boats were stopped. The man was singing, For long I've caught fish at Liao Air. Neither corn nor hemp do I plow. I'll kill the corrupt officials. I'm loyal to Emperor Zhao. 64. 64 Zhao was the family name of the ruling house of the Song dynasty. He Tao was surprised at hearing this, and just then he saw the singer in the distance sculling a small boat. A soldier recognized the man and called out, "That is Ruan V." He Tao beckoned with his hand for his men to move forward, and all the boats advanced. When Ruan V saw this movement he laughed and cursed them, saying, "You are corrupt thieves who oppress the people. How dare you attack me? You come here to pull the tiger's whiskers." The soldiers took their bows, and let fly a large number of arrows. Ruan V, seeing this, seized a tool used in fishing, made a somersault, and dived into the water. The soldiers rushed to the spot, but could not find anyone there. They punted their boats towards 2 tracks in the reeds, and heard someone in the reeds whistle. The boats spread out, as they saw another boat approaching them sculled by 2 men. A man was standing in the boat, wearing a bamboo conical hat, and a grass raincoat, and was holding a spear in his hand. He was singing, "I was born at the village of Shurjia, and I long to slake my thirst for blood. Let me only behead the deputy and He Tao, and present their heads to the Emperor Zhao." Both He Tao and his men were startled upon hearing this. A man called out, "This man is Ruan VII. Let all of you advance and seize this thief," shouted He Tao. "He must not escape." Ruan VII laughed upon hearing this and said, "You crook." He then pressed his spear, and the boat turned round towards a nook in the reeds. The soldiers, seeing this, yelled out and chased him. But Ruan VII and his 2 oarsmen sculled briskly so that the small boat seemed to fly. He also whistled with his fingers as the boat wound its way through the devious turnings. The soldiers quickly followed down the narrow channels, but He Tao called out, ordering them to stop and anchor close to a bank there. He Tao got on the bank and, looking round, saw nothing but a vast expanse of reeds and rushes without any trace of a footpath on the bank. He was suspicious, so he asked the fisherman they had arrested whether he knew the place. The fisherman replied, "Although I live here, yet I do not know all these numerous tracks through the reeds." He Tao sent some 3 of his men in a small boat to go forward and examine the tracks. As they had not returned after 4 hours, He Tao said, "Those men are not good scouts." He then sent 5 more of his men in 2 small boats to reconnoiter the tracks. But after another hour had passed, those men also had not returned. He Tao said, "Those men were well experienced, so how is it that they have not returned to report to me? I never thought there is not a single man of the soldiers who can get out of a scrape by himself." As it was now getting dusk, he thought that it would not do to stop in that spot, but he decided to first investigate matters himself. He selected a quick boat and 6 of his reliable men who were armed, to pull the oars, and then seating himself at the bow of the boat went towards one of the numerous tracks in the reeds. They went about 2 li, and now as the sun was setting in the west he saw a man on the bank carrying a hoe. He asked him, "Who are you? What place is this?" The man replied, "I live at this village. It is called the Decapitation Creek. There are no thoroughfares here." "Have you seen 2 boats pass this way?" asked He Tao. "Are they the boats that were sent to arrest Ruan V?" asked the man. "How do you know that they come to arrest Ruan V?" asked He Tao. "They are fighting in the forest over there," said the man. "How far is it from here?" asked He Tao. "It is just over there, not far away," replied the man. He Tao gave orders for the boat to stop at the bank, and then told 2 of his best men to arm themselves and come ashore. But the man took his hoe and struck the 2 soldiers with it, knocking them down into the water. Upon seeing this, He Tao was startled, and was thinking of going on the bank himself. Just at that moment the boat was moved away from the bank, and a man suddenly emerging from the water seized his legs, and pulled him off the boat into the water. The men on the boat, seeing this, were thinking of retreating, but the man on the bank used his hoe and brained them all one by one. The man in the water dragged He Tao to the bank, stripped him of his belt, and bound him with it. Then He Tao saw that the man who had jerked him into the water was Ruan the seventh, and that the other man on the bank was Ruan the second. The brothers cursed He Tao. We three brothers always like to kill men, and set houses on fire. What a cur you are! How dare you bring your men here to arrest us? Heroes, said He Tao, I was sent here by my superiors, it was not my own will. How dare I come here to arrest you? But pray have pity on me and spare my life, because at home I have a mother, who is 80 years of age, and depends entirely upon me for her support. One of the brothers said, bind him tightly like a zongzi rice dumpling, and put him in the hulk of the boat. They then threw the bodies of the soldiers, who had been killed, into the water. The brothers then whistled with their fingers, and immediately about 5 men emerged from the reeds and rushes, and came on the boat. They then all departed. The officer who had been left in charge of the soldiers on the boats thought, He Tao thought that his men did not know how to carry out his order, so he went himself to explore the tracks, but so far he has not returned. It was then about 9 p.m., and the sky was studded with stars. The soldiers were all taking a cooling on the boats as it had been a hot day. Suddenly a strong wind sprung up and struck the boats in the stern. The men covered their faces with their hands and bemoaned their luck. The wind snapped the mooring ropes, and the boats were soon in disorder. Just then the soldiers heard a whistle, and looking in its direction they saw at the side of the reeds an outbreak of fire. The men cried out, we cannot escape from that. There were about 100 boats, both small and big, and these were now all bumping against each other. The fire approached quickly. They now saw that there was a fleet of small boats fastened together in pairs, and loaded with reeds and grass which was all ablaze, and the wind was blowing this mass of flames towards them. Their boats were all mixed up in a disorderly mass, and the channel was so narrow that they could not escape. There were about 10 of the big boats all together in one spot, and these pairs of small boats with the fire got between them. In the water beside these small boats were men who guided the boats to their destination. The soldiers on the big boats leaped on shore to escape. But there was no dry ground there, and the fire soon caught the reeds so that there was no way to escape in any direction. They stood in the mud. The wind was strong, and the flames were dangerous. In the fire they now saw a small boat sculled by a man, and with a man seated in it who held a two-edged sword and shouted, do not allow even a single one to escape. The soldiers standing in the mud shivered with fear. Instantly they saw on one side came 2 men leading about 5 fishermen armed with spears and swords, and on another also advanced 2 men who were leading 4 fishermen, who were also armed. These men now commenced to attack the soldiers, and in a very short time all the soldiers were killed. The 4 leaders were Chao Gai and the 3 brothers Ruan. The man seated on the boat was Gong Sunsheng, who had prayed to heaven for a wind, and had obtained it. These 5 men had led 10 fishermen in the attack on the soldiers, and had succeeded in killing them all in the reeds, or in the water. There was only 1 man left, and that was Inspector He Tao, who was lying in the bottom of a boat, tightly bound like a dumpling. Ruan II picked him up, and put him on the bank. He then cursed him saying, you stupid reptile. You have deceived and injured the people of Jizhou. At first I thought of cutting your corpse into 10,000 pieces. But now I want you to return to Jizhou Prefecture, and tell that thief, the prefect, that the 3 brothers Ruan, or even Chao Gai are not to be slighted with. We do not go to your town to borrow grains, but if he comes to our village it will result in his death. We are not afraid of a piddly prefect, who has an order from the Prime Minister to arrest us, because if Kai himself comes here we shall only cut about 30 holes in his body. If we release you, you must not attempt to come here again. You must tell that prick the prefect that he had better not have another dream like this one. There are no roads here, but I will get my younger brother to show you a way. Ruan VII got a small light boat, and placing He Tao on board took him to a place where a road started, and then said to him, you can get away by this road. All the men who came with you have been killed, so is it not nice for us to let you go in this way? When the prefect sees you, that asinine thief will laugh at our weakness. I now beg that you will let me have your 2 ears as a keepsake. Ruan VII took his sword and cut off both ears of Inspector He Tao. He then cut his bonds and left him on the bank. Chao Gai, Gong Sunsheng, the 3 brothers Ruan, and the 10 fishermen embarked on 7 small boats and left the anchorage of the Shijia village and went to the Li family village. There they found the boats that had brought Wu Yong and Lu Tang. Wu Yong asked how the affair with the soldiers had terminated, and Chao Gai told him all the details. Wu Yong and all the men were very much pleased on hearing the news. They then placed their boats together in one place and went to the inn to find Zhu Gui, the dry land crocodile. When Zhu Gui saw so many people arriving and assuming that they wanted to join the bandits, he went out to meet them. When Wu Yong had told him the news, Zhu Gui was much pleased and saluted each person individually. He then invited them to come into the main hall, where he told the servants to bring wine and wait upon the guests. He then took his bow and shot an arrow, that had a whistle attached to it, into the reeds. As soon as the whistling arrow reached its destination, a boat carrying a number of bandits came forth, and was sculled towards the inn. He then wrote a letter giving the names and number of the heroes who wished to join the bandits, and handing this to the boatmen, told them to take it at once to the stronghold. A sheep was then slaughtered and cooked for the assembled men. They passed the night there, and early the following morning Zhu Gui ordered a big boat and invited his guests to embark. They also took the boats that had brought Chao Gai and his party, and set off for the bandits' stronghold. In a short time they neared the landing place, when they heard drums and gongs beating. 4 small boats came out to meet them, and after the boatmen had saluted by exclaiming "Nuo," they retreated. Upon reaching the landing place called the Jinsha Bank, all the fishermen and other men were told to remain in that place. About 10 bandits were there to conduct the leaders to the stronghold. At the barrier Wang Luan with the other chiefs was awaiting them, and they all saluted Chao Gai and his fellow leaders. Wang Luan said, "I have heard the great fame of Chao Gai, the heavenly king, like the sound of thunder in my ears. Today I am greatly honored by you entering our humble straw stockade." "I am quite uneducated," said Chao Gai, "and am very rough. Today I want to hide my incapability, and am willing to be a subordinate follower of yours, and I hope you won't reject my application." "Don't talk like that," said Wang Luan. "Please come into our stronghold where we can discuss matters." They all went up the mountain. Upon arriving at the assembly hall, Wang Luan invited them to enter. Chao Gai and his 6 companions stood in a row on the right-hand side, while Wang Luan and his subordinate leaders stood on the left side. They then each individually pressed each other to be seated. Wang Luan instructed the lower officers standing near the door to salute the guests also, and he then gave orders for the men outside to beat the drums and play the music. He then told some of his men to go down the mountain and conduct the other followers of Chao Gai to the stronghold and entertain them in the guest chamber where they could stay for the night. He also ordered that 2 oxen, 10 sheep, and 5 pigs were to be killed, and a big feast provided. While they were drinking the wine, Chao Gai told them all about his affair from beginning to the end. While listening to this, Wang Luan was much upset and very perplexed. He made no remark or comment, but muttered to himself. The feast lasted until the evening, when Chao Gai and his men were shown by the chiefs to a guest hall, where the former could stay. Chao Gai was much pleased with the arrangements, and spoke to Wu Yong and the other 5 men, "We have committed a serious crime, and should Wang Luan not treat us so well, we could find no safe place to stay. So we cannot forget to repay his kindness." Wu Yong gave a sneering laugh. "Why do you sneer in that way?" asked Chao Gai. "If you know anything you had better tell me." "You have an honest disposition," said Wu Yong. "But do you believe that Wang Luan is really willing to receive us here? You cannot read his heart, but you should carefully notice his conduct." "What do you see in his actions?" asked Chao Gai. "Did you not notice," said Wu Yong, "that in the early stage of the feast he spoke with you in a friendly manner, but afterwards when you had stated how we had killed many soldiers, policemen, and how we released He Tao, and what splendid heroes the brothers Ruan are, Wang Luan then changed his countenance, and his answers to you were not sincere. If he had really intended to keep us here, he could have decided upon your position in the band early this morning. The 2 leaders Du Qian and Song Wan are rather rough characters, so how can they understand how to treat guests? Only the other leader Linchung was previously a drill instructor at the eastern capital, he understands everything. Just now he has no alternative, but to remain as the fourth in command. At the beginning when Wang Luan was discussing matters with you I noticed that Linchung did not seem very comfortable, and was always looking at Wang Luan. I saw that Linchung might do something for us. I shall speak a few words which might produce a conflict between them. I have to depend entirely on your admirable scheming, said Chao Gai. The 7 men slept soundly that night. Early next morning they were informed that Linchung wanted to see them. That man, said Wu Yong, is come to have a talk with us, he has fallen in my trap. The 7 men went to the door to invite Linchung to enter, and Wu Yong being in front said to him, we are deeply indebted to you for the grand reception we had last night. I am afraid that I did not pay you sufficient respect, said Linchung. Although I should like to have treated you much better yet I am not in a position to do so. Although our talents are negligible, said Wu Yong, yet we can appreciate your intentions. We are extremely obliged to you. Chao Gai pressed Linchung 3 times to take the seat of honor, but Linchung declined the honor. At last Chao Gai gave way and agreed to take the premier seat, and Linchung took the second seat. The other 6 men took their seats in a row. I have heard of your fame, said Chao Gai, but I did not expect to meet you today. When I was in the eastern capital, said Linchung, I never treated my friends lightly. But now as I cannot treat you as I would like to, so I came here to beg your pardon. Chao Gai expressed his thanks for the great favor bestowed upon him. I heard previously, said Wu Yong, that you were noted at the eastern capital as a great hero. But I never heard how you fell out with Marshal Gao Qiu, and how it happened that you incurred his displeasure. Afterwards I heard of the military fodder depot at Songzhou being burnt down, and that it was part of Gao Qiu's plot to aggravate your misfortune, but I have not heard who it was that introduced you to these bandits. The mention of Gao Qiu, said Linchung, makes my hair stand on end. Yet I am not able to have my revenge. It was Squire Chai who introduced me to this place. Is not that Squire Chai, said Wu Yong, the man whom we know as Chai Jin, the small whirlwind? Linchung said that that was the person. I have heard, said Chao Gai, that Squire Chai distributes wealth in a good cause. He is known to entertain heroes from all quarters. It is said that he is the descendant of the former Zhou royal house. It would be very nice if I could meet him sometime. According to what people say, said Wu Yong, the fame of Squire Chai is known everywhere, and it is heard of by all men. I think that if your military skill had been only ordinary, he would not have recommended you to the bandits here. Without exaggeration I think that it would have been proper for Wang Luan to have made you the head chief here. Everybody in fact agrees with that, and moreover it would have been in accordance with Squire Chai's recommendation. I am flattered by your great praise, said Linchung. It is not Wang Luan who would not have me remain at his home. I have really committed a great crime, and I was really afraid of implicating Squire Chai. I myself was willing to come here instead of staying at his home. But I never expected that I am today held on a dilemma. It is not that I am dissatisfied with my position, but Wang Luan has no fixed idea, and his word cannot be depended upon, and that makes it very difficult to work with him. In dealing with men, said Wu Yong, he appears to be very amiable, but who knows that at his heart he is so narrow-minded. Just now, said Linchung, it is very fortunate that many heroes have come to our mountain stronghold to help and assist us in many ways. Your presence is like dressing an embroidery with flowers, or like a welcome shower on a parched rice field. But Wang Luan is jealous and envious of capable men, and is afraid that the influence of the heroes will result in his overthrow. Last evening when you told him about your having killed many soldiers I could see that he was uncomfortable, and that was why he did not want you to stay, but asked you to pass the night outside the barrier. As Wang Luan has that kind of disposition, said Wu Yong, we need not wait until he asks us to go, but must ourselves seek refuge in some other place. You heroes, said Linchung, must not look at things in that way, because I have another plan. I was afraid that you had the idea of leaving here, and that was why I came early to discuss matters with you. You had better wait and see how he treats you today. If he is reasonable and quite different from yesterday, then we need not discuss matters any further. But if there is only half a sentence which is doubtful, then everything that follows will rest upon my shoulders. As you display such kindness, said Chao Gai, we shall be grateful to you forever. In that case, said Wu Yong, you will break up the old brotherly association for our sake. If we are allowed to remain, then we will stay, but if we must go, then let us depart. You are mistaken, said Linchung. There is an ancient proverb, one ape will pity another ape, and a good man will have compassion for his fellow men. I think he must be the offspring of a couple of rotters, as he is a vile brute, and we cannot therefore regard him as a brother. But you heroes need not be troubled about him. Linchung then rose to make his departure, and said that he would see them again very soon. He then left after being duly saluted by all the men present. Shortly afterwards one of the bandits came, with an invitation from the chief Wang Luan for them to dine with him at an arbor on the south side of the mountain. Chao Gai told him to tell Wang Luan that they would soon be there, and he then asked Wu Yong, what do you think of this meeting with Wang Luan? Wu Yong laughed and said, Sir, you need not worry, as you will soon be in command of this stronghold. I think that today Linchung will fight Wang Luan, and if he hesitates, then you will find that my 3-inch tongue will not be useless, and I can make him risk his life. We must be prepared, and conceal weapons on our bodies. When you see me stroking my mustache, you can use your united strength. Chao Gai and the others were quite pleased at hearing this. After 9 a.m. 4 times a man came to request them to go to the feast. They all carried weapons, but their dress gave no indication of them. Songwon came to conduct them to the feast, and he was riding a horse. He brought 7 sedan chairs carried by bandits, and the party went there, and were ushered to the feast. Upon arrival at the arbor they were met by Wang Luan, Du Qian, Lin Chong, and Zhu Gui, who conducted them inside, where they all took their seats. Wang Luan and his 4 leaders sat on the left, while Chao Gai and his 6 companions sat on the right. Many bandits served them with wine. After drinking wine and partaking of about 2 courses of food, Chao Gai attempted to start a conversation with Wang Luan about their joining the band, but every time Wang Luan diverted the conversation to some other subject. Wu Yong was watching Lin Chong, who sat with his arm over the back of his chair, and kept his eyes on Wang Luan's body. Thus the feast went on till after midday, when Wang Luan, turning round, ordered his bandits to bring in a thing, and shortly afterwards a bandit entered carrying in both hands a large tray on which were 5 ingots of silver. Wang Luan, rising with a cup of wine in his hand, addressed Chao Gai, we are greatly honored by you heroes wishing to join our band, but unfortunately our stronghold in the midst of these waters is so small that it cannot accommodate many dragons. As a manifestation of my feelings, I wish to present you these gifts, and I hope that you will accept them with a smile. Also, should you find a larger stronghold where you can stay, I shall have much pleasure in surrendering myself to you there. Chao Gai said, we heard that you were always inviting virtuous men to enter your band, and that was why we came here. But if it is not convenient for you, we will of course retire to some other place. We are extremely honored by your offering us these ingots of silver, but we cannot accept them. I do not care to boast of the wealth that we have, but we really have enough for our present requirements. I request you to take these presents back, and we will then take our leave. But why won't you take the presents? Asked Wang Luan. It is not that we do not wish you heroes to stay here, but because our food supplies and housing accommodation are so scanty that we are afraid that you would soon be dissatisfied with them. While he was saying this, Lin Chung raised his eyebrows, and his eyes expressed anger. Leaning back in his chair, he shouted out, when I first came here you falsely said that your food supplies and housing accommodation were scanty, and now that Chao Gai and his heroes have arrived you make the same pretext. How unreasonable you are. Do not get angry, said Wu Yong. The fault is on our side, as our arrival has evidently upset the amiable relations in your mountain stronghold. Wang Luan, your chief, has today diplomatically suggested that we should go, and has even provided us with our traveling expenses. He did not try to drive us away. So I request you to appease your anger, as we are quite willing to depart. There is a hidden dagger behind his smiling face, said Linchung. His words are nice, but his actions are dirty enough. Indeed today I cannot bear with him. Addressing Chao Gai, Wang Luan said, just look at this brute. He is not drunk, and yet he hurts my feelings by this kind of rebellious language. You are evidently a poor scholar who has failed in the official examinations, said Linchung. You have no learning, so how can you be the leader at this stronghold? Brother Chao Gai, said Wu Yong, our seeking refuge at this mountain has resulted in causing the chief to lose face. We had better get a boat and depart immediately. Chao Gai and his 6 companions rose from their seats in order to leave the arbor. But Wang Luan urged them to finish their meal before going. Linchung, however, kicked the table over, and taking a sword from his clothes he flashed it about. Wu Yong stroked his mustache, and seeing this Chao Kai and Lu Tang gathered round Wang Luan, and pretended to urge him not to have any fighting. Wu Yong plucked at Linchung's dress, and said, do not be rash. Gong Sunsheng addressing both parties said, do not break your friendly relations on our account. Ruan II was pressing Du Qian to remain passive, Ruan V was pretending to persuade Song Wan, Ruan VII to persuade Zhu Gui, while the bandit soldiers were too afraid to speak a word, but looked on with surprise. Linchung seized hold of Wang Luan and cursed him, saying, you village bumpkin. You are very lucky in having Du Qian to help here. Squire Chai helped you and gave you plenty of money. But when he recommended me to you, you were not willing to allow me to stay here. Again today you wanted to send these heroes away. This mountain surely is yours. But how jealous you are of capable men. As you are such a useless customer, I must kill you. You are so narrow-minded and incapable that you certainly cannot be the chief of this stronghold. Du Qian, Song Wan, and Zhu Gui all wanted to intervene, but were surrounded by the 3 pretending peacemakers. Wang Luan would have escaped at this time had not Chao Gai and Lu Tang prevented him from doing so. He saw that the position was bad and called out, where are my intimate followers? There were several of his intimates at one side, but although they had a desire to help him yet dared not come forward when they saw Linchung's fierce aspect. Now Linchung caught hold of Wang Luan, and after further cursing he stabbed him in the breast. Seeing this, Chao Gai and his men drew their broadswords. Linchung cut off Wang Luan's head, and held it aloft in his hand. Seeing this, Du Qian, Song Wan, and Zhu Gui were much afraid, and kneeling down they said to Linchung, we are quite willing to hold your stirrup and reins and be your servants. Chao Gai and his followers immediately raised them up onto their feet again. Wu Yong took the chair that was standing in a pool of blood, and placing it at one side said to the assembly, if you do not submit you will suffer the same fate as Wang Luan. Today we recognize Linchung as the chief headman of this stronghold. Linchung shouted, you are making a mistake. Today I desired justice to reign, and that is why I killed this bad thief. I certainly do not want to occupy the position as your chief. Wu Yong has asked me to occupy this seat, but should I do so I should be a laughing stock of all the heroes in the empire. Should you press me any further in this matter, I would rather die than submit. But will you listen to just one sentence I wish to say to you? The men replied, we shall of course listen to what you, our chief, have to say. Linchung did not say much, but the result was that many men of one heart were admitted to the Broken Gold Pavilion, 65, and many meetings of righteous brothers would be held at the Hall of Righteous Brotherhood. The administrator of heaven's justice is coming. The wealth distributor in good cause is approaching. We will now relate what Linchung actually said to Wu Yong. Footnote 65 Broken Gold Pavilion. This phrase is from the Book of Changes and means that even gold can be broken when 2 hearts are united. J. H. Jackson.